with money they just created out of thin air with a computer. This actually bewilders a lot of people, and because it seems so bizarre. But because we were so rich and so productive and we were so trustworthy, so to speak, and we had such a strong military, they put a lot of trust in our system. It was an undeserved trust. But I think what we're seeing now is we're losing that trust, and eventually a monetary reform will have to come. Let's just hope we can wake up enough American people to let them understand that a commodity money is what we need, not just more paper money.
That's a great segue, I think, into what occurred last week. You'll recall the head of the Treasury, Timothy Geithner, was practically laughed off the stage by college students in China when he tried to bamboozle folks into thinking that our U.S. bonds are safe. Even college students know something is wrong with the Fed and the Treasury today. And the market seems to agree, Dr. Paul. The greenback's crashing.
You know, it's neat. The young kids over in China knew what was going on, and they laughed. The strongest group of people who come to my rallies are the young people. High school kids and college kids are coming, and they know what's going on, and they haven't been sort of lulled to sleep like so many others. And they're really excited about studying the Federal Reserve, and almost every one of them comes to my office. I probably had half a dozen or so today that came in, and I want to know more about the Federal Reserve. That really is shocking to learn it, and they're reading about it. So now they're starting to wake up, but we still have a ways to go.
You know, you've talked in the past how the Fed usurps the natural free markets in the U.S. and around the world by manipulating the price and the supply of money. I think it's important that people get their minds around the idea that this was just not set originally by the Constitution. This is an artificial method, which you've rightly called counterfeiting. I mean, Where does this ultimately lead?
Well, many predicted that the financial system would collapse, that there was too much inflation, too much debt. There was a big bubble, and housing prices were too high, and that would collapse. So the financial system has collapsed. That system that was based on the dollar just really doesn't exist in many ways today. But the dollar hasn't collapsed. I mean, the dollar, people still resorted to grab and hold of dollars. So there's still been some trust in the dollar itself, even though the system has crumbled. But you can't create $2 trillion of new money every year and think that you'll be able to maintain trust in the dollar. So I think it'll end with a currency crisis where people will reject the dollar. One reason why it's not going down as fast as some would think is that generally we only measure currencies against other currencies. And quite frankly, those who understand monetary policy wouldn't necessarily say, I got to sell the dollar. I want all my money in euros or all my money in yens, because they're based on the same system. But ultimately, when trust is lost, this has happened many, many times over the century, people want to go to things of real value. They want to hold something. And, of course, those are the metals and gold and silver. So I think in the last 10 years, it's been noticeable that more and more people are recognizing that there's a monetary component of gold. For a good many years, people just sort of forgot about it, and it was strictly a commodity and not so much money. But today, I think people are recognizing that it's money, and you can't repeal those laws. These are the laws of economics and free will. So I think we'll have a dollar collapse, and it won't be measured in exactly the measurement against other currencies. It'll be measured in prices. And I think we're going to see a lot of high prices. And then if your dollar is very weak, you're going to see high interest rates. And that certainly won't help the very, very weak economy we already have.
That's well said. You know, the yellow metal did hold up quite well, even in the 2008 credit crisis. Worldwide market crashed there and has rebounded, I think, quite well here as energy-related investments. You know, West Texas Intermediate crude doing well, so are the related stocks. And who can blame the markets and the investors when the Fed and Treasury have the power to print trillions of dollars and give it away to their banking pals with very little transparency?
Yeah, and that's the big thing. And unless we rein it in, they will destroy the dollar, and that is very, very serious business. That to me would be a lot worse than what we've already gone through. So some people describe it like we're in the eye of a hurricane. We just had the first wave, but I still think the second wave will be bigger, because the odds of us here in the Congress coming to our senses and cutting back are zero, because you've heard it from the president and everybody else that under these conditions you have to spend more money. Deficits don't matter. More deficits and more inflation. Don't ever allow any liquidation of bad debt. Let the government buy it up. Today in the supplemental, which is yet to be passed, they're offering that one of the solutions will be for the government to give everybody that has an old car $4,500 for it. So if you want to do a good investment, go out and buy an old clunker, because it looks like the government will give you $4,500 to get it off the street, and that's going to restore prosperity.
And, not to mention, Dr. Paul, we each own about 2 shares of General Motors now.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, you've been very kind and with your time today. I know folks have heard of Dr. Paul's Campaign for Liberty and defending the American principles of liberty. If you'd like to navigate your browsers, could you give us that website?
One of the best ones is to go to ronpaul.org, and there's about 6 websites listed, whether it's the congressional office or my campaign or Campaign for Liberty. That would be a good place to start.
Excellent. You can sign up there in less than 30 seconds. Thank you, Dr. Paul.
Thank you.